Coming up on today's show, the Suns take game one of the NBA. Just kidding. We're not there. We are going to look back at what happened in reality. We've had a little bit of time to cool off. Did the Suns actually just completely fall apart and this whole thing needs to blow up? Or can we actually just be honest and get a few real things out there of what needs to change? Aaron Edwards is here. We'll break it all down on today's Locked On Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 5 seasons and a writer at Suns.com and Dime Magazine. Thanks for making Locked On Suns your first listen today and every day. NBA Finals Game 1, but that doesn't mean we're not doing a pod. We're not going to have a moment of silence. We are chugging forward. Reports, rumors, all of that continue to come. I talked about the Raptors stuff yesterday, but today we are going to do things a little bit differently. It's been 3 weeks almost since Game 7, which both feels way too short and way too long for that to be the real amount of time, but the smoke is cleared. And what I wanted to do now that Aaron Edwards is back for the week is just take a deep breath and have an honest conversation about what actually went wrong and what really does need to change about this Suns franchise. So again, he is Aaron Edwards, a writer at All Caps NBA over on the Take Line YouTube channel. Aaron, the amount of, just before we dive too far, the amount of TV and movies that I've been able to watch since the Suns lost this series, I have a hard time complaining. Like, I have caught up on everything that I needed to catch up on. I'm watching like 90s movies that I never even thought I would ever do. I'm like, wow, I thought I would have through June booked, and now I have like 2 whole months to just kind of hang out. It's been not bad. I'm not going to lie to you.
Hey, I love a good silver lining, and I honestly have been like catching up on stuff, and I just finished the show Made for Love like an hour ago. So I've
been watching like Obi-Wan Kenobi as it comes out on Disney Plus, and I've never done that with like any show in the past couple of years because of the Suns.
Yeah, I feel like our nights were so booked up. It was like, all right, we got a 6:30 start, and by the time we finished that, then we're talking about last night's game the next day, and then the next game is up, and then we have to do it all over again. So in that instance, like, it has been nice to have a little bit of a break.
It has been nice, and I'm sure the Suns feel the same way. I know Book has been gallivanting across the country and the world with one Kendall Jenner. I'm very jealous of what his summer has looked like. But we're going to take a little bit of time here and just be a little bit honest, like what actually went wrong, what actually needs to change. Because a lot of the stuff I've been talking about on the show, I've been having to kind of like pump the brakes and be like, all right, I'm going to acknowledge this flaw or this change that might be coming, or this one thing that the Suns didn't do that the Celtics and the Warriors did do, or whatever it might be. And then I have to be like, okay, but they won 64 games, right? Like, yeah. They were expected. Everybody thought they would win the finals. It's not like it was just this group of us in Phoenix who were like, oh, this underdog, we believe in them. It's like, no, they were the favorite. So there has to be something said for that. So that's kind of what we're going to do. We have to balance, like, they were awesome with the reality of things didn't end the right way. And what do you do with that? Because that's obviously what James Jones and other guys in that organization are having to kind of confront themselves right now. So I'll open it up to you. What's kind of been sticking with you as something that you feel like actually needs to be different if the Suns are going to get over the hump, get back to where they were and beyond next season?
I think we talked about this a couple of days ago. Like, the scheme that they're going to have to deal with now isn't going to go away. And that's putting that kind of load on a 37-year-old point guard is just not going to work out in the long run. Like, we might win 55 something games next year, but for 7 games, he's going to get attacked. He's going to get full court pressured, and they're going to end up getting him to guard you and making him guard you every possession. And that's just a problem that's not going to go away. And I just don't think we can play at that kind of pace anymore, because like people were saying, like, it hurt Ayton. It kind of hurt Book, because we've known for a long time that Book likes a higher pace. And when Mikal Bridges is running, he is an incredible player. But in the half court, having him spot up in corners and just wait to hopefully get the ball, that just doesn't work. And that's just how Chris Paul needs his offense to run. And I just think in the long run, it can't run like that.
Yeah, that was going to be the first thing that I said, honestly. Not so much the kind of scheme, although I know we were talking about that, but my thing is just like they have to get easier shots. And I mean, like I kind of touched on this a little bit with some shows that I've been doing about, getting to the rim more and taking more threes and this and that is like the thing I keep coming back to is the system that the Suns have started to really run since they had Chris Paul. So the past 2 seasons, that system relies on Chris Paul being amazing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's really what kind of bit them in the end this year is when he stopped being good. And I, Monty, I keep coming back to what Monty said too about confidence. And I think that part of the issue is it's hard for guys to be confident to kind of step up and take shots. Like we saw Mikal, we saw Deandre both get outside of their comfort zones and develop their offensive games a little bit during the regular season. But I think even by the end of the regular season, all of us kind of agreed, like, it's probably not quite there. Like, this is still going to fall back to how good our Book and Chris going to be. And that's really what ended up happening. And then when Book wasn't there or he was hampered or whatever it was, and then Chris fell apart, it's like, yeah, the expectation that Mikal or these other guys are going to kind of lift you is silly. Now, could they have played better? Of course. Like, Mikal was in that game 7. He missed like 3 layups in the first quarter. Like that can't happen. But also the idea that he's going to come run like 20 pick and rolls and save the day, that's also kind of ridiculous. Like they just don't get enough free throws, layups, and threes. Like, I mean, that sounds basic, but they don't do it. They just don't get enough of those shots. And you're setting yourself up to be at a disadvantage if you're accepting that every game.
Yeah, I think a team with runners like we have, like Book, like Mikal Bridges, Ayton's one of the best running bigs in the league. Like, I just don't think a team like that needs to be using the full 24. Like, it gets way too close. And Monty, I know he likes to run his offense that way, specifically because Chris does. But I just don't think, as far as this team right now, we do have the pieces. I just don't think we can be one of those teams that try to shorten games and run a full 24 and try to get a bucket when every bucket you try to get in certain games is really hard. Like sometimes you just got to get the best shot you can and not wait as long as possible to get it.
I mean, the only team that really did that and succeeded this season was Dallas. Like they played slow and they had Luka Doncic who can bail you out with a freaking circus shot at the end of the clock and make
or get fouled.
Exactly. Yeah. So on that note, I had a few of these stats. I did a show earlier in the week that I thought was it. I learned a lot like prepping for it, honestly, and I think people should go back and listen to it because it's crazy when you look back on the 2019-20 season and how different this team is than that year.
Yeah,
they had. So we've been talking about getting to the rim for the whole time Chris has been here. More than a third of the Sun shots came at the rim that season. They had the #1 transition offense in the NBA. And they were 13th in passes per game. I also want to throw in there something I didn't talk about the other day because I didn't look at it. They were 5th in free throw rate that first year under Monty. So, like, those shots are the ones that Monty came in here wanting to get, and they got them with way worse talent. They got them with Kelly Oubre doing whatever the hell he wanted every possession.
He attacks the rim, though, and he attacks it hard. And that's just one of those things.
He's a great transition player.
Yeah, and I'm no way caping for Kelly Oubre because I remember those days, but there are just some aspects of this team that hopefully they'll grow. Like Cam Johnson, he started to attack the rim a lot more and get fouled, and I just think that's one of the things that Mikal Bridges is probably going to get better at, just getting stronger and being comfortable doing it even. Like I just think the way he's physically built right now, I just don't think he's comfortable doing it, and I just think that'll just come later. He'll be ready to put the ball on the floor and go to the rim and get fouled, but we just don't have that right now.
Yeah, you see guys like – because I don't know if physically like he's going to be a guy who continues to put a ton of muscle on, but I do think like you see guys like KD, Paul George, different guys like that where they don't really add weight, but they just handle contact better. I don't really know what that is. It's just
I mean, you can see it. Steph got very obviously stronger this year. Like, you can tell. And he's comfortable going to the rim. He attacked the hell out of the Mavs the last series. Like, whenever they let him go to the rim, he was comfortable going to it and trying to get a foul. And that was one of, like, the big hangups on him was he's small and he will take a beating. And he's not exactly, like, just jacked now, but you can tell he's obviously stronger now and he's more comfortable doing it.
I think it's not exactly muscle memory in terms of like instincts and stuff, but it's like muscle memory in terms of what needs to be strong to be in the NBA. And once you've been in the NBA for 5 to 7 years, I feel like that stuff's just there for you. You also know how to train. You're training for situations that you're in as a player based on the team you're on, rather than just like, all right, it's the draft's coming up. Let me go, get some, 15 reps of this and that in there with my trainer and just like show everybody how yoked I am on the combine. Like I think that's kind of the stuff that it is. Let me ask you this though, on this note. I feel like they missed Willie Green more than we thought, because the Suns were giving him a ton of credit last year for all the stuff that they were putting in there offensively, getting Book and Chris to play off of each other better. The times when they were moving the ball, they were all like, yeah, Willie was yelling at us, and it's kind of hard to quantify, but I think that is something that I kind of came back around to after the game 7 is like, yeah, maybe they missed him, because their assistant staff, they've lost guys every year for the whole time Monty's been here now, and I wonder if that plays a part too.
I feel like it definitely did, and it was not – I knew like Willie Green being the Pels coach was going to make for a tough series, but I don't think it was all that. Like, I don't think he threw anything at Monty that he wasn't like prepared for. I just think Willie just knows his players and he can get the best out of each and every one of them. And I think Willie's more down to hurt some feelings. Like, I think when somebody didn't have it and another matchup worked, Willie was down to try it. And when it comes to that with Monty, he doesn't do stuff like that sometimes. And I just think Willie would have probably been in his ear a lot quicker to make some changes that I think Monty would have made.
I think it's just that modern kind of NBA mind that Monty trusts.
Yeah.
I think a unique thing where he knows Willie on a personal level, and like they've had a relationship for so long that he trusts him. And it's kind of the one way where Monty's able to like open himself up a little bit. Although again, like you go back to 2019, we weren't feeling like Monty was, hit like a dinosaur in terms of how he was running his offense. And now it's like, I think it's that Chris Paul thing. And I think it's going to have to change. Like, they can't go into next season acting like it's the 2014 Clippers.
Yeah, I think I hate using the word, but he kind of hijacked the offense. And with a 37-year-old point guard, you can kind of only do the things that they can do at this point. Like, he's still a very fit, very in shape 37-year-old, but he is 37. And there are going to be some hangups with that. And every single thing got attacked about it. And that's just
same kind of thing we were seeing with Kyle Lowry in the Heat, right? Where they were, like, people were like, should they be playing him? Like, I don't know if it's working out.
Yeah, and I wasn't not like bench Chris Paul in like those last 3 games that he just was terrible in, but I just think there had to be other options in just getting the ball out of his hand, not doing soft switches. Like, there are ways to hide Chris Paul, even if it means it's going to make you a little bit weaker in other parts of your defense. And we just didn't do any of those. We just let them do whatever they wanted. And if we're going to continue doing that, and teams are going to be like, all right, we can get LeBron on Chris Paul whenever we want, people were going to do that because we're just giving it up. We were just giving it up pretty easily.
Yeah. I think that flexibility is going to have to be there. I want to stick on the offense a little bit too, though, and switch over to the other member of the backcourt, because I have a little bit more level-headed thoughts. I went way too hard on him the day after Game 7. I haven't really talked about him since. I'm ready to a little bit of a mea culpa. We'll do that in a second. First, though, guys, today's show brought to you by Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar on the planet, my favorite protein bar. And look, I've not had the granola bars yet, but I frankly, let me see. Let's see what's actually available, because I'm already getting ahead of myself. You got to really check this stuff. Okay, all 3 flavors of the Built granola are in stock still. They They came back. I think they were surprised. I don't know why they were surprised. People love Built Bars, but they sold out very quickly the first go around, but they're back. Chocolate coconut, chocolate peanut butter, white chocolate berry, something for everybody. That's one of the good things Built Bar always does is they're not just going to throw you one flavor, and if you don't like it, you can't try it. Look, you like more light stuff, you have the white chocolate berry. If you're more of a rich chocolate, you have the peanut butter, and then the coconut for those who like. I love what's it called? I guess I probably shouldn't say the name of the candy bar. Chocolate coconut candy bars, I will say. And look, Built Bar does this where they are not accidental in matching up these things. They actually do blind taste tests where they'll do a sample of a Built Bar that's close to the bar that I'm referring to, and then they'll do a Built Bar, and or then they'll do the actual bar, the candy, and people don't know. Like, people straight up do not know the difference, and they keep testing them that way. They keep coming back the right way. That's why we say they taste just like a candy bar. But, of course, 150 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, so they're light, but packed with 15 grams of protein. A granola bar, yeah, it's pretty crazy. So if you've been waiting for that healthy, delicious granola bar, now's the time. Built granola bar, built.com. Same as always, you can get a mix pack. You can try one of those flavors specifically, whatever it is. Use the promo code LOCK15 when you make a purchase to get 15% off your next order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, I'll start us off this time, Aaron. So in the spirit of just kind of being honest, I think the expectations that I had of Book to just go up there and fix everything, solve every problem was a little bit ridiculous. I think I overreacted to how bad the offense looked overall, and I was kind of just looking at him and being like, you're the best player on this team. You're a guy who got MVP votes, rightly so. Like, how did you let this happen? Like, I was so aggressive about it. I think the turnovers were pretty – I'll save that for a second. I don't think it's reasonable to expect him to do that. I don't think that's the kind of player he is, but I also don't think there's very many players who could have done that with how badly everybody else was playing, how few shots were going in, how little confidence there was, like I talked about. So I think the turnovers are the place where I will go in on him a little bit, because I just think his passing right now is not at the level that it needs to be. It shouldn't be as easy as it was this far into his career, even when other guys aren't making shots. I understand that's a part of it, but he was throwing balls away. It wasn't like he was making the right pass, getting it to an open 3-point shooter, and that guy was just missing, and the Suns put up 40 open threes and missed all of them. Like, he was messing up. He was getting figured out and solved by the Mavericks a little bit, and they knew which passing lanes to clog. You know, when a guy like Spencer Dinwiddie is playing the lane and getting a steal on you multiple times over a couple games, like, he's not an elite defender. So is that fair to say? I think the passing is one area where Book needs to come back better.
Yeah, and I've been critical of his decision making on doubles, like, a lot, actually. And I keep thinking, like, that part will come, and he's seen it. Like, he knows what happened. I think that's probably going to be the main focus coming up, especially not knowing what Chris Paul he's going to get. And I think he has to know going in that either this team is going to make some changes and we're going to get more ball handlers, or he's really going to have to figure out his decision making and just attacking doubles. Watching Jason Tatum get doubled in like the last 3 minutes of that Heat game really showed me a lot. And his decision making on those doubles and shot making on those doubles and attacking it was just different. And
yeah,
him and Book aren't super far apart, but it was just really eye opening seeing how Jason Tatum attacked doubles from a really good defensive team.
So let me just ask you this then, because this is the other part that's a little bit uncomfortable, and I think it goes into some of the Supermax stuff. And I think we talked about it a little bit because when we did that Supermax show about Book, is it reasonable with how much length and size there is on every great NBA team right now? Is it reasonable to think that a guy who's 6'5" can do what a guy who's 6'8", 6'9", like Tatum can do? Like, is there something limiting about Book being a smaller kind of? It's not like he's 6 feet tall, but like he's 6'5". If you throw Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie at him, like, he's not going to be able to see over the top of those guys as easy as Tatum. Like, is that just giving him too much of an out, or is it real?
No, I think he's just way better than that. I don't think that's like a huge hang up, like the size thing. I think he's big enough and still super athletic that he doesn't really have to use his athleticism as much as other guys. That's why, like, his game, like, he's not going to go over top of you or bang into you. Like, his game is just so smooth that it looks like he's not trying hard. And I just think that size-wise, I just think it would look like that no matter what size he was. His game would just still look the same.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that I don't know. Like, it might be 2% that, 5%, 10%, whatever you want to say, where it's like, it's going to be that much hard. I mean, there's a reason that most of the time throughout the whole history of the NBA, even playmakers have been big, right? Like Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Kevin Durant, Luka Doncic, like whatever guys you want to throw out there. I know Luka probably doesn't belong in that group right now. LeBron, I'll say then. Like, those guys are bigger, and it's because it's easier to drive. It's easier to pass over the defense. It's just easier to exist on an NBA court when you're bigger. So I don't know. There's part of me that thinks that, that's where a guy like Ayton or another big, whoever they build around in that front court, needs to be a little bit more of a threat. Like, you were seeing them in that game 7 where they were having Mikal Bridges try to be the short roll playmaker. They were having him screen and then try to pass out. Like, that's not – it was working fine. I think that was actually game 6 when they were really doing that. But, like, that's a weird thing that they were trying to do at the last second because they just didn't have options. And part of me feels like that's because they just don't have that bigger playmaker. I mean, Chris had Blake Griffin, who was amazing at that stuff, and that really, really helped. So, yeah. Let's switch over because I want to go a little bit more on the roster side of this. But my last point here is I think we underestimated how much not having a stretch big, at least as an option, hurt this team. Like, if you go back and look, even dating back to when Aaron Baines was here, like, the Suns offense has been amazing when they've had a stretch big man on the floor. Like, even during the win streak this season, Frank Kaminsky was like the best net rating guy on this whole team, scoring like 20, 30 a night, because it's just those shots are always going to be there when you have the guards that the Suns have.
Yeah, and I think pretty much every team had the option to go small with a stretch big and just completely change their offense, like especially second unit stuff. Like, the Warriors can put in Bielitsa, the Mavs could have thrown in Kleba, and like every team could just go a little small, and get a 3-point shot from their center. And I really just that's another one of like the Chris Paul things. I just don't think our offense allowed for it for the most part. I mean, with Sarge, he was usually sitting, and that was usually Campaign's favorite guy to have in the lineup. But I just think with the way things were going, like, we just didn't have any options to even consider doing that.
Yeah. And I think, I think we all got a little bit too excited to just get the best center on the market last summer when it was JaVale, because it was like, wow, like, they went and they got the guy everybody else wanted, and that just kind of felt cool. But like, I feel dumb not having done the homework and realizing, like, most of the titles he won, he was benched by the end. Like, that's just the truth. Like, he hasn't survived a playoffs where he's actually playing a big role by the end of it ever, even though he has 3 championships. So I think they'll need, whether it's Dario coming back, and by the way, the meniscus thing, he was already back on the practice floor before game 7. I saw him. So not doing a bunch of stuff, but I think it was a minor thing. My guess is he'll be ready. So maybe it's him, maybe it's somebody else, whatever, but that probably needs to get better. They just need to have an option there. And I think that would just help be another thing you can go to, like you're saying, on offense when other stuff's not working. But let's go to the roster side a little bit more here to close things out. First, though, guys, today's show also brought to you by Locked On NBA, where I will be doing a Game 1 recap tonight, right after, the game's about to start. Then I'll watch it, then I'll record it, and you can listen right after that. Locked On NBA is going strong throughout the finals. Free agency stuff, draft stuff coming up, of course, too. Coaching searches, whatever. Locked On NBA, your number one place to get all of it every single day. Okay, so we talked about quite a bit already. We're trying to just level set what actually went wrong. I'll give the floor back to you here. It doesn't have to be on the roster side. I have a few more thoughts on the roster side of things, but what else? What else is reasonable to poke holes in here, and what needs to get better heading into next season?
It's the very obvious one, just having another ball handler off the bench. I think the campaign thing just didn't work out. Like, I'm not sure if he was hurt, but it really just looked like his confidence was gone. Like, the guy from that Lakers series last year was gone. He was all confidence, pulling up from anywhere, getting to the rim whenever he wanted, and getting to the line too. Like, I just think all of it just kind of fell apart, and Monty just wanted to stick with his guy. It was like the loyalty thing, and he was like, if we're going to go down, we're going down with this ship. And I just think we need and they're just not growing on trees, but we just need a bigger ball handler to come off the bench. Like, I'm not sure if it's an option money-wise, but like an Oladipo dude to come off the bench for you, that is just a really nice thing to have, even though it didn't work out for Miami. We just need one of those, a dude that's willing to attack, athletic, and can handle the ball. And that was my biggest hang-up. I really like this team as constructed, but that was just a really huge hole. And it wasn't just we needed to survive the bench minutes. Like, we needed to like hang on and really try to survive during the bench minutes. And not every other team needed that. Like, I've seen Jordan Poole on the floor. Like, you got to be extremely confident with giving Steph rest when you can just put a dude like that on the floor. And we had nothing like that. Book would either have to play too many minutes or Chris Paul would have to play too many minutes. And there was just no sure thing to come off the bench to help out a little bit. And when you listen to Warriors fans, they were kind of still worried about how we would attack their bigs with Ayton. Like, Ayton wasn't the problem when it came with stuff like that. They were worried about what Ayton would do to Draymond, or if he got switched on to somebody smaller, because we attacked them when they went small. We attacked them every time. And I just think the only hang up, if we even made it that far, was Jordan Poole would have killed us, and he would have killed us really bad coming off the bench.
Yeah. I mean, I think you and I have talked about it a couple times. Like, the Warriors team, the way that it looked by the end, like they would have slammed the Suns. But I think that's a big reason why. What if I responded and I was like, and my other thing is the crowd, the Suns fans, they were the worst. They did not bring it this year. I was just thinking, I was like, what else do I want to say here? What if I was just like, yeah, the fans didn't bring it? Well, I was actually thinking though, because, it was one of those things. And you made me think of it with Cam, where I was like, I don't know if anybody listening went to any of the playoff games. I'm sure some of you guys did. It was different. It really was different. And I think not having like Payne and some of those energy guys, it would, like, when Book scored 30 in that first half of game 2 of the first round, it was insane. But other than that, it just felt different. It really did. And I think like some of those energy types of guys can really be important. Like, it's not really the focus of what I was going to say, but it made me think of it. The thing I was going to say is, I think we just need to have this conversation if we're just kind of being honest. And I don't know how I feel. I don't know what to say necessarily, but like, we're kind of talking around the fact that there's no way that Chris Paul can be relied upon in the same way that he was this year. Like, they can't go into next season feeling like he's going to play 35 minutes and
there's no way.
Whatever. Like that, you just can't do that. And a big part of that is you need somebody behind him. So what do you feel like is the solution that, like, is there, you said Oladipo, is there anybody else, like even in a trade or anything, that feels like it could be a replacement for Payne?
We can go Gordon a year late, but I just think like that ship has passed too. But yeah, like, I really don't know where you find a bucket getting point guards. Everybody that has one, or backup point guard, everybody that has one lucked into one. Like Jordan Poole,
a lot of them can't play in the playoffs. That's the other problem. Like Jordan Clarkson and guys like that, it's like you don't want those guys really. Like when push comes to shove.
But a lot of those dudes, the teams that are comfortable with their backup. I mean, Dimwitty got super hot toward the end, and that just got us. But like going back to the pool thing, like they lucked into that. He was in the G League and he started off slow and he had to go through a lot of stuff to become what he is now. And that's like best case scenario. Like we're just not going to find one of those dudes growing on trees. So I don't know what you do with Chris Paul, but he can't play 35 minutes a game again.
Do you think he would accept rest and DNPs and stuff like that, load management? He wouldn't take it when he was 35 with Sam Presti. Would he do it now if it was like, hey, this might be the only chance you have left to win a title if you do this?
Yeah, but does a team that has to sit him that much go to the championship? Like we would need a really reliable option if we're thinking about sitting Chris Paul that much, or we're doing point book and we're putting another wing out there. Like I don't really know what other options we would have.
I mean, they were good without him when he got hurt, though, and that was with Payne having a worse season.
Yeah, and Cam Payne decided to at least pick it up a little bit, and he was passing the hell out of the ball. Like he was,
and Shamet was really good during that stretch too.
Yeah, and Holiday was really good coming off the bench for that, and it was just Monty just seemed like he trusted people more, and I just don't know, like. Their confidence just got shot. I'm not even going to get started on the Aaron Holiday. I'm not even going to get started with that because
when you said that, I literally was like, "Oh yeah!" Like I didn't even remember him being there. I'm looking through rosters on my computer while you're talking, like who's available, who could they get, and then you said Aaron Holiday, and I was like, "Oh yeah, he's still on the roster."
Yeah, the most confident dude on the floor whenever he got out there just wasn't an option for Monty. And I'm not even going to get started on that. Like he probably had his reasons, but we saw every time we got on the floor, he got a bucket. But we're not even going to get into that part. The season's over, but Aaron Holiday Hive, assemble.
I don't feel like he's coming back. So
I wouldn't come back either.
Whatever the reason was that he wasn't getting playing time is probably the same reason they're not going to bring him back. I mean, I don't know, like the best case scenario for a player like that to replace Payne or to be another option there would be like, Kobe White or Colin Sexton or some of these like younger where like you still feel like you could mold them. They're going to be expensive. It would take like a bunch of weird, it'd take a bigger trade like Crowder and something like that to even get in the conversation for something like that. And I think Sexton's a restricted free agent. They both might be. So it kind of complicated, but like a player like that, younger, your version of Poole, understanding you're not going to get somebody that good, but the other thing about Payne that I always try to like remind people listening of is he's not young, like you could feel like, oh, it's just his second season. Like he'll bounce back, but it's like, no, not really. It's not his second season. It's like his sixth season. He's in his mid-20s. He's in his prime, basically. Like expecting him to take a leap isn't really there. So I think Chris would accept sitting more, load management, whatever you want to call it. I think you're right that they have to have a plan for that. Like I think of Kawhi Leonard that year with Toronto. He load managed a lot because they have like a million wings every single season. Like it was easier to do that because they had players who could fill that role. The Suns don't right now.
I think if not guard wise, but if we do keep Ayton and we trust that it was the scheme and it was Chris Paul just having him pick and pop and not make really any decisions other than catch the ball in a pick and roll and attack the rim. And he really is the player that I do think he is sometimes, and he's going to make that jump, then I'm fine with just figuring out another wing or point book or sitting Chris Paul sometimes if we're going to get the Ayton that I think he can be.
Yeah. And at that point, I mean, you need somebody to like entry pass and, get sets initiated. You don't need an amazing pick and roll guy. You use him a little bit more like he was used his first couple seasons. And I think though, like if you're talking about stuff that would set them back, like I think the inevitable thing, as we're talking, like they're going to be much worse next regular season. Whether there's, I mean, like that's obvious. 64 wins is obvious, but like, I don't think they'll be like, are they going to win 55?
No, I think it's going to be like a 48 type season.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think I would go that far down. Like I still think they have the talent, but I just think like whether they're sitting guys or trying to focus on development more or playing more depth more consistently, their end of the bench guys more often, whatever, like that, I think they'll take a step back. But 48 would be like
I think scheme
67% of what they did this year. That would be a lot worse.
Okay, like 50, like 51, I think. But we're putting a dude that is 37 years old out on the floor for 82 games.
Yeah.
And he is our second, third, first, whatever best player. He's in the top 3. And I just think that's the dangerous part. And he did win us a lot of games. Like, we were the best clutch team in the NBA, and he won us a lot of those games in the clutch. And I just think trusting a 37-year-old to keep doing that and doing that in 35 to 36 minutes a game just isn't sustainable.
Yeah, this could have been a week of shows, honestly. I thought I had closed the book. I also wanted to talk to you about Barry, but people yell at us when we talk about TV. But I want to maybe we'll do it after the season's over because we only have 2 more episods.
Yeah, we can do that.
Cool. All right, we got to watch Game 1 of the finals, guys. That'll do it for the week. Thanks for listening to Locked On Suns. We'll have more. I feel like this new stuff is not going to stop coming. The NBA is insane. I was trying to convince people that right over at Dime that the KD to Phoenix stuff is an actual possibility. They just stopped answering me at a certain point. So we're just going to keep yelling into the void every single day. But I appreciate you guys listening again. Thanks for making Locked On Suns your first listen. Now go make Locked On NBA your second listen, featuring me tonight to catch up on Game 1 of the finals.